Revealed how one single mother delivery girl inspired a millionaire CEO after rejecting 8 models. Sarah had seen it all in the bustling streets of Chicago, but nothing prepared her for the day her life would intertwine with that of Tom, a millionaire CEO draped in the kind of success that dazzled and often suffocated. Every morning before dawn, she swung her tired legs off the edge of her bed, pulling on her worn sneakers with determined resolve. The flicker of her daughter Lily's dreams danced in her mind, an artist, poised to paint the world with colors that were vibrant and alive, in stark contrast to their gray, cramped apartment. As Sarah loaded her delivery bag, she felt a familiar tightness in her chest. Did she really have enough in her to give her daughter a fighting chance? Each day felt like a tug-of-war against unseen giants. She hustled through the city's vibrant streets, making sure to deliver hot meals with a smile, as if they contained the magic that could change lives. Then came that fateful delivery to the glitzy new tech firm in downtown Chicago. As Sarah walked into the lobby, she was met with a whirlwind of glamour models draped in designer dresses, all eyes on Tom, who radiated the kind of wealth and status that turned heads but left hearts cold. Yet when Sarah made her delivery, chaos unfolded. With the models vying for Tom's attention, Sarah brushed past them, a force of nature. She had mouths to feed and dreams to nurture, and she wouldn't see them tarnished by materialistic pursuits. For a moment, the world around them faded. Tom, taken aback, felt something shift inside him. He had it all: money, fame, status, but standing in front of him was the real treasure, a woman whose spirit shone brighter than any fashion statement. The spark was undeniable. Sarah's fierce strength contrasted starkly against the emptiness that stalked Tom in the corners of his lavish existence. Days turned into weeks as their unexpected friendship blossomed. Sarah shared laughter and takeout dinners in her tiny apartment, revealing truths about love, sacrifice, and the kind of happiness that didn't come with price tags. But her self-doubt loomed large, like a specter, whispering reminders of her struggles and insecurities. Things began to unravel when Sarah learned her small delivery business was on the verge of bankruptcy, threatened by a looming corporate takeover. Anger surged through her like a fire ignited by injustice. She could practically hear the echoes of community members rallying behind her, their hopes intertwined. Sarah was fired up now, channeling her somber reality into a battle cry for the community she loved. Just as she drew strength from those around her, Tom watched her unwavering resilience, grappling with his own thoughts. What was success really for? What was the value of his wealth if it was unanchored from the community that shaped him? The sight of Sarah fighting for her dreams pushed him to reassess everything he believed. But a profound vulnerability arose, a heart-stopping revelation. Would Sarah let Tom into her world, risk her heart on someone with a life so dissimilar from hers? As the community united against the powers that threatened them, pressure mounted. Would they fight for what was right together, or would the weight of their differences drive a wedge between them? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As they faced the corporate giants together, a storm brewed on the horizon. The community stood eagerly behind Sarah, but the real question remained: could she and Tom transcend their barriers, turning their swirling insecurities into a force for good? Hearts raced, and the stage was set for a dramatic showdown, leaving everything hanging in the balance. Would they unite, or would their paths diverge forever? The sun set low over Chicago, casting long shadows across the city as Sarah paced back and forth in her cramped living room, glancing at the community rally flyer pinned to her fridge. Tomorrow was the day they would face the big corporate giants, but the weight of uncertainty pressed heavily on her shoulders. She felt torn, not just between fear and resolve, but also between her heart and her mind. Tom stood behind her, his presence both comforting and intimidating. His usual confidence now seemed tinged with hesitation, mirroring her own inner turmoil. How was he supposed to stand beside her in this battle when his life had been so detached from the struggles she faced? He cleared his throat, trying to find the right words. "Sarah, I believe in what you're doing, but I don't know if I'm ready." His voice faltered, the unspoken doubts hanging in the air like an uninvited guest. Turning to face him, she caught the flicker of anxiety in his eyes. "What is holding you back?" she asked, her voice steady despite the storm within her. "You want to help, don't you?" "Of course I do," he hastily replied, running a hand through his hair. "But what if they see us as a mismatched pair?" she interrupted, her spirit flaring up. "Tom, this isn't about us. It's about the community. It's about showing them that we can stand tall against anyone who threatens our dreams. Together." He nodded slowly, but she could see his uncertainty lingering. Sarcasm from the models and jeers from the corporate folks had left a mark on him. What if they laugh? What if we fail? Then we fail together. A silence stretched between them, laden with shared vulnerability. A small part of her whispered that maybe this was why she hesitated to let him in, fear of being judged by a man polished in wealth. But deep down, she knew he was more than just a CEO. He had a kind heart, and he offered a perspective on life she could never have imagined. As the evening wore on, they began planning. She sketched ideas on a napkin, outlining strategies to rally community support. With every scribbled word, her heart swelled with hope. Maybe they could really make a difference. "But Sarah, if we do this, I want to be by your side," he said, his voice lighter. "I want you to trust me." Trust. It was a hefty word, packed with promises and risks. Her heart pounded in response. "I will." With a resolve stronger than before, they worked through the night until the pale light of dawn began to seep into the cracks of her window. They had a plan, a real one, and for that moment, it felt like a glimmer of victory against the darkness that loomed outside. The day of the rally arrived. Sarah stood in the front, gripping the microphone, while Tom stood behind her like a steadfast guardian. The community filled the park, their faces a tapestry of hope and determination. She took a deep breath and stepped forward, the crowd murmuring in anticipation. "Today, we fight not just for our businesses, but for each other," she shouted, her voice cracking with passion. "We have dreams worth fighting for." The sound of cheers erupted from the crowd, filling her with adrenaline. But even as hope swirled around her, a shadow loomed in her chest, the fear that could snatch everything away. What if corporate forces crushed their spirit? What if Tom's past caught up with him, exposing their vulnerability? As she looked towards Tom, she saw his confidence blooming, yet doubt danced in her mind. Could a woman from the streets truly stand beside a man from a world of privilege? That question lingered even as fists pumped in the air, a wave of unending support surging around her. But just as she opened her mouth to speak again, there came a ripple from the edge of the crowd. Sarah felt her heart skip a beat as a figure emerged, a familiar one, but not one she expected. Claire, the very model who had cast a shadow over her first encounter with Tom, was striding forward. What was she doing here? Had she come to taunt them, to poke holes in Sarah's burgeoning confidence? In that moment, uncertainty gripped her heart again. Would the presence of someone from Tom's circle unravel everything they'd worked so hard for? With that thought, the stage was set for a confrontation that could change everything. Claire stepped into the sunlight, her designer dress shimmering against the vibrant background of the community rally. A hush fell over the crowd as eyes turned from Sarah to the model. The cheers gradually faded to whispers, anticipation hanging like a thick fog. Sarah's heart raced. This wasn't the confrontation she'd planned for. It felt like the pricking of a bubble, the moments of hope soon threatening to burst. "Sarah," Claire called out, her voice smooth yet sharp as a knife. "I'm here to help." The words landed heavily, and Sarah hesitated. Help? From Claire? What kind of game was this? The two had only crossed paths before, each meeting tainted with underlying tension and competition. Around them, the crowd exchanged puzzled glances. Help? Sarah echoed, her voice shaking. Why would you help after everything? Because, Claire said, stepping closer, forcing Sarah to meet her gaze. I see what you're trying to do. And I respect it. I've spent so long in a world where appearance matters more than integrity. I want to show that there's more to this fight. But something didn't feel right. Was this a sincere attempt at reconciliation, or was Claire just trying to undermine the rally's momentum? Tom shifted, a mix of protective instinct and confusion clouding his features. Sarah could feel his unwavering support behind her, even if doubt still flickered in his eyes. What do you mean? He interjected, his voice low but firm. I mean, I've seen how these corporate giants operate, Claire said, her tone softer. I was one of their puppets. But now, I want to cut the strings. The crowd seemed torn, some frowning, others visibly interested. They wanted to believe Claire's change of heart. But could they trust her? Sarah's mind raced. If you're truly here to help, then prove it. You need to show the community why you care. She had to say it. If Claire was sincere, now was her chance to prove it. Claire nodded, stepping back to address the people. Fine. I'll use my platform. I can mobilize influencers, draw attention to this cause. But trust me, it won't be easy. I've got connections who won't be thrilled with me stepping away. Why should we trust you? Sarah pressed, the words fierce yet laced with fragile hope. After all that has happened? Claire took a deep breath. Because unity matters now more than ever. And if we're going to take them down, we need everyone on board. I'm here to fight, not against you, but alongside you. A flicker of interest sparked in the crowd. Sarah could see them shifting their weight, eyes darting between her and Claire. She felt the air thickening, tension twisting in her chest. All right, Sarah said, her voice steadier now. But if at any moment you betray this community, I will not hesitate to stand against you. She hoped her voice carried the weight of her conviction, that authority they needed to hear. Claire raised her hands, palms open. You have my word. Let us show them what we're made of. In that moment, something shifted. An invisible barrier began to dissolve. The fear that had clutched Sarah's heart loosened just a bit. Maybe, just maybe, there was power in collaboration even from unexpected places. As the crowd erupted into renewed cheers, Sarah caught Tom's cautious smile, tinged with hope. But uncertainty still lurked, and Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that trusting Claire would lead them down a path fraught with challenges. Would this newfound alliance uplifting, or would it be the very thing that toppled their dreams? As the rally's energy swelled, Sarah took a deep breath, ready to harness the momentum. But even then, lurking behind her excitement was the shadow of doubt about what this alliance could ultimately bring, and as the sun dipped lower, casting a golden hue over the crowd, she realized they were just at the beginning of a battle far bigger than anyone had anticipated. As the crowd roared, Sarah felt a mix of exhilaration and tension. She had never expected this turn of events, and now Claire was in the spotlight not as a rival, but as an unexpected ally. But could they trust her? Trust was fragile, especially when the stakes were so high. Claire turned, her gaze sweeping the audience. With a newfound passion sparking in her eyes, she leaned into the momentum. We're facing a giant that has ignored us for far too long. But together, we can make them pay attention. Together, we can show them the power of our community. The cheers grew louder, igniting a heat in Sarah's chest. She had always believed in this cause, but now it felt like they were on the brink of something bigger. Yet doubt slithered back in. This was still Claire, after all. Sarah. A voice piped up from the crowd. It was Mia, a single mother who had shared her story many times at these rallies. Are we really going to trust someone who has had everything handed to them? I've fought tooth and nail just to get by. What does she know about our struggle? The crowd buzzed with murmurs, and Sarah's heart sank. Mia's words struck a chord. How could someone who had lived in luxury understand the grind of everyday life? Claire had money, connections, a world of privilege that felt worlds away from the community they were fighting for. Before she could respond, Claire stepped forward again. I know what it's like to feel trapped, constantly evaluated, valued only for what I represented. I may have walked a different path, but I felt the pressure to conform, to be perfect. And I'm done with it. The honesty in Claire's voice pierced through the lingering skepticism. Sarah saw the sincerity swirling in her eyes, but could she let herself believe it? Tom squeezed Sarah's shoulder. Maybe this really is it. Maybe she can help us reach people we haven't been able to touch before. Sarah nodded slowly, her mind spinning. The previous fear of betrayal still lurked, but a glimmer of opportunity flickered as well. All right, Claire. But we need transparency. Nothing works without honesty, she said, the weight of her words hanging in the air. Claire jumped on the chance. Yes, I want to share everything. Let us document our journey together. I want the world to see what it means to stand united. We can pull people in, everyone from activists to everyday workers. Suddenly, Sarah felt invigorated. The potential for change, their message carried beyond the confines of their town, sent an electric thrill through her. There was so much to lose, but if they didn't take this chance, what would be left? The crowd was alive with energy, voices teeming with enthusiasm. Plans started to bubble up among the supporters' social media campaigns, fundraisers, meetings. Sarah felt the pulse of something greater than herself. But in the whirlwind of ideas and hopes, a dark thought loomed. Could this new plan end up tearing them apart if Claire faltered? The evening stretched into a beautiful tapestry of laughter and conversations, everyone buzzing with possibility. But Sarah's heart still drummed cautiously in her chest. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the rally, she glanced at Claire. The woman who once seemed like an adversary was now standing shoulder to shoulder with her, a strange but undeniable alliance forged in vulnerability. What if their fight unearthed secrets about Claire's past, things so shocking that they threatened to unravel them both? Would they be able to weather this storm together, or would the truth bring everything crashing down? The questions danced in Sarah's mind as she looked out over the crowd, feeling both hope and trepidation entwined in her heart. This was just the beginning, and though she leaned into the change, she knew that every step would be a risk. The days following the rally felt like a whirlwind. Sarah woke up each morning to a barrage of notifications, her phone buzzing with messages of support and excitement. Plans were taking shape quickly, a social media campaign was launched, and flyers began circulating through the community like an electric current. It was exhilarating and terrifying all at once. As she mingled with the crowd during the first planning meeting, Sarah could see Claire digging into the work with a fierce determination. She was no longer the hesitant figure from before, she was a leader, and that spark was contagious. All right, everyone, Claire said, her voice ringing through the hall. We need to make a list of our goals. Sarah sat quietly at the back, absorbing the energy in the room. Mia, with her usual fire, was the first to speak. We need outreach programs, fundraisers, something tangible that shows we care about the families struggling in our community. What if we partner with local businesses for support? Suggested Tom, sparking a nod of approval from several others. I can reach out to some connections, Claire added, a hint of pride in her voice. They see what's happening here, and we can ask for help. Doubt simmered in Sarah's stomach. It was a bold move. Friends turning to Claire for favors felt risky. She wanted to believe in this alliance, but could they really rely on someone like her, someone who had always floated above their struggles? As the meeting progressed, Claire laid out plans for a community festival. Imagine this, she exclaimed, her eyes shining. Music, food, stories shared will turn our pain into celebration. Let us stand for each other. The idea drew an enthusiastic response, yet Sarah couldn't shake the nagging voice in her head. What would happen when financial interests clashed with community needs? Claire's well-meaning vision could also be a trap. Would the festival truly benefit everyone, or would it showcase Claire's privilege under the guise of charity? That evening, after a long day filled with buzzing excitement, Sarah returned home feeling conflicted. The energy in the room lingered with her, but so did her uncertainty. Stepping onto her porch, she found Mia sitting on her steps, looking pensive. Hey, Mia called softly. Everything okay? Sarah sighed, dropping down beside her. I'm worried, you know? What if we're letting ourselves get swept up in the excitement? What if it all falls apart? Mia nodded, her gaze steady. You know what? I think we need to ask the hard questions. We can't just follow someone blindly, even if she is pouring her heart out. We know the struggle. It's our fight. Sarah felt a warmth settle in her chest. Exactly. If we're going to really do this and unite, we need to keep our voices loud and clear. We're not stepping back. Before they could delve deeper, Claire burst through the door, her energy still brimming. You too. I have an idea. I want us to open the floor for stories. I want everyone from our communities to tell their truth at the festival. What do you think? At that moment, Sarah exchanged a glance with Mia. The vulnerability of sharing their stories could equal the depth of their fight. But what if sharing those stories unearthed secrets their community wasn't ready to confront? Could Claire's vision truly unite them, or was it just a surface-level gesture that risked exposing unseen fissures in their community's foundation? As Sarah watched Claire's enthusiasm cleave through the doubts swirling in her mind, she knew one thing for sure. The path ahead was fraught with potential pitfalls, and every decision could either strengthen or shatter them. With a shaky breath, Sarah made up her mind. They were in too deep to turn back now, but how could she make sure their alliance was genuine? The quiet resolution spoke volumes as the stars twinkled above them. It was just the beginning of a journey that promised to intertwine lives, reveal truths, and demand unwavering courage. What would they find waiting in the shadows when the festival illuminated the stories that shaped them? Would the very unity they sought also unearth the divisions they had buried? The following week, anticipation crackled in the air like electricity. The planning for the festival was moving at lightning speed. Posters plastered the walls of coffee shops and community centers, while Sarah helped Claire coordinate interviews for their social media campaign. But even as they pushed forward, Sarah remained anchored in her skepticism. One rainy evening, Mia stopped by Sarah's house to brainstorm ideas for storytelling at the festival. What if we interviewed different families for their stories? She suggested. We could create short videos to share their lives, their struggles. It'd be powerful. Sarah frowned. But how do we prevent it from feeling exploitative? What about the people who aren't ready to share? The pressure could be overwhelming. I still worry Claire's idea might unintentionally expose vulnerabilities some folks aren't ready to face. Mia shrugged, her brows furrowed. You have a point, but isn't the point to make everyone feel seen? We might be scared, but when people can share their truths, they become stronger, more connected. We have to trust that everyone's story is worth telling. As they talked, a renewed energy burst from Mia's passion. It stirred something inside Sarah. Okay, we can help guide them. Build a safe space, she conceded. But she couldn't shake the image of Claire, vibrant and bold, leading them toward something uncertain. The day of the festival arrived quickly. The community center was transformed. Colorful bunting flapped in the breeze, laughter and music mingled in the air, and tables lined with homemade dishes invited everyone to gather. But as Sarah looked around, her heart raced. What if, beneath all the colorful decorations, there was still unease? Would the nonprofit organizations they partnered with stay true to their mission, or follow the dollar signs? When Claire stepped onto the small stage, her enthusiasm radiated. Welcome, everyone. Today, we stand together as a community, ready to shine a light on our stories and lift each other up. Her voice echoed, and the crowd cheered. But Sarah's heart pounded louder. In the audience, people were eager. Residents lined up to share their stories, testimonies from lives shaped by struggle and resilience. When the first woman stepped up, Sarah felt the tension in the air shift. The storyteller's voice shook, yet held power. The audience leaned in, hanging on her words. The vulnerability was palpable. But then, Sarah caught sight of Claire watching from the sidelines, her face a mask of excitement. In that moment, Sarah's heart sank. She saw something deeper in Claire's eyes. Was this truly a shared mission, or a stepping stone for Claire's own validation? The stories flowed, some heartbreaking, others filled with strength. Each testimony felt like a puzzle piece falling into place. Sarah knew these moments mattered, but as she absorbed the raw honesty in the words shared, she felt a wave of unease wash over her. What if they uncovered something they couldn't put back together? As the stories unfolded, events and tensions simmering beneath the surface teased at the corners of Sarah's mind. Claire stepped in front of the crowd for the final story. Her enthusiasm startled Sarah. Now it's time to hear from our own community. As she turned to wave someone on stage, the uncertainty surged within Sarah like wildfire. Would this final act add to the unity, or would it expose the fragile seams of their bonds? And just then, out of the crowd, someone shouted, "What makes you think you can speak for us?" A hush descended. The question hung heavily in the air, intertwining doubt with hope. As Sarah prepared herself for whatever chaos might unfold next, she realized that this was just the beginning. What unraveling truths could emerge when voices rose against the tide of well-meaning intentions? The festival had only begun. Now, the real battle for unity commenced. The crowd fell silent, the murmurs of confusion rippling through like a stone dropped into still water. Sarah's heart raced as she watched Claire's smile falter. The challenge in the voice rang true, cutting through the festive atmosphere. Who were they here for? Was it really about the stories, or was it something else entirely? Claire's face turned toward the source of the challenge, a gaunt man standing with crossed arms at the back. He looked weary, a faded t-shirt clinging to his frame, and his eyes burned with the weight of frustration. "You don't know our struggles, yet you stand there like you have all the answers. Why should we share our pain with you?" A thick tension wrapped around the audience, swallowing their laughter and joy. Sarah felt it too, a growing discontent simmering beneath the surface. This was supposed to be a celebration, but now it felt like a platform for sparring. Was Claire willing to listen? "Everyone's voice matters here," Claire started, but the man cut her off. "That's easy for you to say. You're up there feeling all high and mighty, pushing us to talk about our lives like we're some kind of circus exhibits." His words hung in the air, heavy and raw. The crowd's energy shifted. Some people nodded, others looked uncomfortable. Sarah shifted on her feet. Should she step in? But before she could find her voice, another woman joined in, her elderly frame shivering with indignation. "There's bravery in sharing, but not when it comes from someone who has lived it. We want to tell our stories, but we don't know you, Claire." "Not really." Gasps circled the crowd, and Sarah could see Claire's cheeks flush. This was a different kind of story unfolding right before them. Not the scripted narratives they had rehearsed, but a genuine confrontation of emotions. Claire took a breath, and for a moment, the audience was still. "You're right," she said, her voice steady. "I don't know your struggles. But that's exactly why we're here, to create a bridge between us. I can't speak for you, but I want to help share your truths." "I promise to listen." The man scoffed. "Listen? Or just paint pretty pictures for your social media?" Sarah bristled, but she understood the man's frustration. This was their community, not a social media moment for Claire's validation. But Claire pressed on, her face now a portrait of determination. "It's not about me. It's about the stories I hope to amplify. If you'll give me a chance to earn your trust, I will make sure your voices are heard without diminishing their worth." As the murmurs swirled amongst the audience, Sarah saw clarity dawning on Claire's face. This wasn't just about sharing stories, it was about responsibility. Claire needed to prove herself. Sarah felt a flicker of hope. Maybe this moment was dark, but it could lead to something powerful. Suddenly, as if feeling the shift, a young mother stood up from the front, her baby cradled in her arms. "I want to tell my story," she began softly, her voice trembling yet clear. "And it's hard, but I want to be heard. Will you listen?" When her words pierced through the tension, the crowd leaned in together, drawn once more to the light of shared experiences. But Sarah stayed rooted in her place, overwhelmed by the rush of emotions. Could this gathering truly unite their community, or would it fracture further? The noise of the crowd faded away as she watched the mother rise, igniting memories and emotions within others. Time seemed to stagnate as Sarah clung to the possibility of what could come next. Would this spark a true transformation? Before she could unravel her thoughts, someone else stood, a figure from the shadows, ready to share so much more than just stories. What might be revealed next could change everything. The young mother's voice shook a little, but held the crowd's attention like a well-cast fishing line. "I was a single mom struggling to make ends meet," she continued, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "Every day was tough. I worked long hours, sometimes delivering food just to keep the lights on." Sarah felt her heart twist. The woman's honest struggle mirrored so many around her. It wasn't just about her story. It resonated like echoes in their lives. As the mother spoke, the gaunt man who had first challenged Claire turned slightly, showing a hint of interest. This was what they needed, a real connection. I want my daughter to know she's not alone in this world, to feel like her story matters, the mother said, glancing down tenderly at the baby swaddled in her arms. We all have battles to fight. The crowd's atmosphere began to shift again. An energy sparked, an electricity that made some nod and others whisper amongst themselves. Sarah caught snippets of words: hope, struggle, we are not alone. She realized that sharing one story had started a ripple that could touch everyone. But before the moment could gain momentum, a figure emerged from the crowd, a middle-aged man with disheveled hair and ink stains on his shirt. He stepped forward, his voice hoarse, but laced with intensity. You're talking about stories like they're just products to be sold, but they're not. They're our lives. They shape us. Claire opened her mouth to respond, but the man continued, I've lost everything. My job, my family. Do you have any idea what it's like to face that kind of emptiness? To put on a smile for strangers while your heart is breaking? The silence turned heavy again, emotions pulsing through the crowd. Anger, sadness, compassion all swirled together. Sarah could see Claire's resolve faltering. She had to address this. I understand it's hard, and I can't take away your pain, Claire said slowly, but I am here to learn from you, to help you tell your stories. Each of you deserves to be heard. Yet, the man shook his head. No offense, Claire, but what you want is easy compared to what we live every single day. His words cut, sparking a ripple of agreement. Many had their own stories of struggle, and the fear of being dismissed was palpable. This isn't just a conversation for you. Another voice called out, a young man while stepping forward. These are pieces of us you want to put on display. What makes you the right person to tell them? Claire took a deep breath, her face a mix of determination and concern. I can't promise to understand completely, but I can promise to give my best to represent you honestly. The tension snapped like a tightrope stretched too far. Questions hung unspoken in the air. Who would support Claire now? Did she have the strength to face the raw emotions clawing for recognition? Let us see if the bridge you want to build can hold weight, the gaunt man remarked, eyes narrowing. Claire couldn't back down now. This challenge was her moment to stand for what she believed in. As the crowd simmered in anticipation, Sarah felt a new wave of resolve bubbling inside her. Perhaps now it was her turn to speak her own story, begging for release. But as she caught Claire's eye, a deeper understanding passed between them. Could they really create something more than words today? Was it possible to shift from mere listening to true understanding? In that moment, Sarah knew she had to decide whether to share her own experience or stay quiet. Whatever revelation she chose could lead them all into uncharted territory. Would their community emerge stronger from this confrontation, or would the cracks deepen? The air shifted once again. Sarah's heart raced. She took a step forward, her throat dry and her palms clammy. All eyes seemed to converge on her, a mix of curiosity and expectation that intensified with each heartbeat. She was no stranger to struggle, but the thought of sharing her truth made her stomach churn. Her voice wavered at first, but she pressed on. I get it, I really do. I've been where you are. Every week felt like a mountain to climb. Taking a breath, she continued, I grew up in a neighborhood where promises meant nothing. My mom worked 2 jobs, and I'd watch her wear herself thin just to keep food on the table. A wave of emotions coursed through her, a blend of pride and pain. Fragments of her life flashed in her mind: the worn furniture, the heavy silence in the evenings, the constant worry reflecting in her mother's eyes. I wanted to succeed, she murmured. But I also wanted to help. A murmur rippled through the crowd, connecting them with her words. I still remember the day I got my first job delivering groceries. I was 16, and it felt like I'd won the lottery, Sarah said, a smile creeping across her lips despite the heaviness in the room. But it wasn't easy. I juggled school, work, and taking care of my brother. It was exhausting, but every delivery reminded me of why I did it. I wanted a better life for us. Her voice grew stronger, gathering momentum. I had dreams, lofty ones. but I didn't have the privilege of a safety net. Every financial hardship felt like a heavy chain around my ankle. She paused, gauging the crowd's reactions. And I know how defeating that can feel. I felt lost for a long time. At that moment, the gaunt man's intense gaze softened. Sarah's vulnerability began to chip away at the ice that had formed around their collective struggles. She continued, but somewhere along the way, I learned that sharing our stories, our pain, and our triumphs gives us power. It connects us. It reminds us that we're not alone. As Sarah spoke, she noted how the middle-aged man had begun to nod, his body reflecting sympathy. Inspiration swirled as she pressed on. I learned that every time we come forward with our truth, we create room for someone else to breathe. We push down the walls of loneliness. Claire's gaze met Sarah's, a silent acknowledgement passing between them. This was more than a conversation now, it was the beginning of something new. What if our stories became the foundation for a community that supports one another? She offered, her voice rising with excitement now. What if we turn our struggles into strength, into advocacy? It starts with us right here, right now. The crowd shifted, whispers igniting like wildfire. The stark competition of pain began to dissolve into something more collaborative. Claire leaned tighter into the moment, her expression hopeful. You're right, Sarah. It's not about who suffers the most, it's about lifting each other up. We need to hear and honor all our voices. A wave of agreement swept through the gathering, but just then, the floor creaked behind Sarah, and she felt a chill. A shadow loomed closer, a tall figure brooding in the back of the crowd. Who was that, and what did they want? The air felt charged once again. Would this newcomer bring chaos or hope? As tension thickened in the room, Sarah's heart pounded in sync with the rising energy. Could this pivotal moment of honesty pave a path for everyone, or would they be challenged again? The unexpected voice broke through the rising tension. Excuse me. A tall figure emerged from the crowd, an older gentleman with a worn face and kind eyes. He wore a faded baseball cap and a jacket that looked like it had seen countless seasons. Can I say something? The murmurs ceased, and everyone turned to him. Go ahead, Claire gestured, her features a mix of intrigue and caution. I worked what felt like a lifetime at a factory, he began, his voice thick with emotion. I was laid off when they shifted production overseas. Suddenly, I was just a number, a memory, and my family suffered. He took a shaky breath. Each month, I couldn't pay the bills. I lost my home. Yet, through all that darkness, the one thing I always valued was community. People like Sarah, he gestured towards her, who kept delivering food, smiling through the weariness. They reminded me we weren't alone. A ripple of understanding washed over the crowd. From the back, the gaunt man nodded, his hardened expression softening. There was recognition in the air, a shared bond of struggle and survival. I've been angry, the older man continued, his voice gaining strength. But my real anger should be been directed at the systems that let us down, not at the people trying to lift one another. Claire stepped forward, her spirit ignited by his words. Yes, this is why we are here. To create a community that believes in each other. To advocate for businesses that care, that aren't just profit machines. We want to build a bridge to recovery. More nods, more murmurs of agreement simmered around them. The crowd was becoming a tapestry of stories woven together. As she spoke, Sarah felt her heart surge. This was the moment. We need to keep fighting for each other. That means accountability, she exclaimed, her hands moving with urgency. We can't just share our stories, we must act on them. We need to push for the change we want to see. The crowd erupted, cheering her on. But in that moment, something clicked in Sarah's mind. They were gradually transforming. And if we succeed, each of us can have a voice. Features built not just for clout, but for genuine connection. The crowd hummed with excitement, a wave of determination pulsing through them. But the next voice came from the side again, the middle-aged man who had challenged Claire. What about the people who don't have a voice? The ones too hurt or scared to step forward? Claire stood firm, seeking his gaze. Then we need to find ways to reach out, create spaces for every story. Everyone deserves a chance to be heard. The crowd felt it ripple, a new thread woven into their collective fabric. Let us make plans to spend the next few weeks meeting, not just talking, Sarah urged. We can identify resources, organize our efforts into different neighborhoods, help each other out. A woman in the front shouted, I can help with outreach. Excitement built as more voices chimed in, sharing skills and commitments to act. Sarah glanced at Claire, seeing the sunlight glimmering in her earnest eyes, and for a split second, the uncertainty from before faded. They had come so far. An emblem of newfound trust resonated, illuminating paths of possibility. But as the energy reached its peak, Sarah caught sight of the gaunt man again, still skeptical, still guarded. She felt the urgency to understand the community's doubts mirrored her own. Thank you for your honesty, she said, searching for the right words. We want to earn your trust, but it starts with not only sharing the mic but truly listening. That simple statement created a ripple effect. The man stepped forward slightly. I want to help too, but promises without action mean nothing. Then let us take our first action together, Sarah proposed, her heart steady with purpose. Next week, let us gather again and coordinate a community meeting. We'll form committees, share responsibilities, set a timeline. What do you all think? Heads nodded, and the chatter grew. There was fire in the air, a sense of renewal, but just as Sarah felt a surge of hope, Claire chimed in, her voice ringing clear. Everyone should feel free to share where they've been hurt and how they can contribute. What if we made this festival not just a one-time event? What if it transformed into an annual gathering to ensure our voices are heard? The crowd erupted again, cheers carrying to the skies. But still, fear danced behind Sarah's heart. This alliance was fragile. With every step they took, new challenges would arise. Yet it didn't matter now. Each story shared today had woven stronger bonds, a promise of resilience solidified under it all. As she looked across the faces in the crowd, she felt deep gratitude bloom within her. When the time comes for us to meet again, she said, let us gather all of our ideas, our stories. We'll face whatever storms come together. And just like that, they had reached a turning point. Sarah didn't know where their path would lead, but she felt that this community was beginning to weave the fabric of a brighter future. She stole a glance at Tom, who stood nearby, his eyes shimmering with admiration. His nod of encouragement fueled her spirit. As they finished, laughter erupted and excitement buzzed brightly in the air. The community was alive with hope, stories bound tighter than ever. Sarah felt a wave wash over her, a sense of purpose that lit her soul. They would rise together, transforming struggle into strength. And with that fervor igniting within, she realized she had created her place, side by side with Tom, Claire, and everyone else. Together, they would embrace the unknown, ready to face whatever came next with unity and heart. But this wasn't just about them anymore. It was about every single person who had stood up, united in hope, and ready to change their lives for the better. Before Sarah could step down from her impromptu platform, she looked over the crowd, feeling the weight of achievement and anticipation. And she knew this was just the beginning. Now is the time to show your support. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you won't miss the next exclusive story. Hit that like button now to feed the algorithm that helps fellow dreamers find the story. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this ending. We want to hear from you. And share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand how essential it is to keep our community growing.